The stellar horizon wasn't much to look at, just another listening post among dozens scattered across the frontier of human space. Its worn hull and antiquated sensors made it easy to dismiss as just another relic of humanity's early expansion efforts. But on this particular day, it would become the stage for humanity's most significant first contact. Lieutenant Sarah Chen sat at her monitoring station, eyes heavy from another uneventful 12-hour shift. The endless stream of background radiation and stellar noise had long ago become white noise to her experienced ears. That's why the sudden change in pattern caught her attention immediately. "That's different," she muttered, adjusting her neural interface to focus on the anomalous signal. It wasn't the usual cosmic static or the regulated pulses of human communications. This was something else entirely, structured, complex, and definitely artificial. Commander David Santos noticed her sudden alertness from across the command center. "Found something interesting, Lieutenant." "Sir, I'm picking up a transmission unlike anything in our database. It's..." She paused, fingers dancing across her haptic controls. "It's using quantum frequencies we've only theorized about. The complexity suggests advanced technology, but there's something wrong with the pattern." Santos moved to her station, his weathered face reflecting in the holographic display. 20 years of frontier service had taught him to trust Chen's instincts. Wrong how? It's degrading, like watching a perfect crystal structure collapse in real time. And Chen's eyes widened. "Sir, I think it's a distress signal." The commander's expression hardened. "Can you clean it up?" Chen's fingers flew across the controls, neural interface glowing as she pushed the station's aging systems to their limits. The signal clarified, resolving into a complex stream of data that defied their translation matrices. But embedded within were patterns universal to any species capable of space travel. Mathematics, basic physics equations, and something else. "There," Chen pointed to a repeating sequence. "That's got to be coordinates. They're using universal constants as reference points." Santos studied the data, his military training warring with scientific curiosity. "How far?" "Based on these markers, about 30 light-years rimward, well beyond any human settlement." Chen looked up at her commander. "Sir, protocol says we should relay this to Central Command and wait for instructions." Santos nodded slowly. "Protocol also says we shouldn't even be able to detect quantum communications at this level." "How long would it take Central to respond?" "At least 72 hours, assuming they make it a priority." Chen's voice carried an edge of urgency. "But sir, the signal's degrading fast. Whatever sent this, I don't think they have 72 hours. The commander straightened, years of frontier service having taught him when rules needed bending. "Lieutenant, begin pre-launch sequences for our emergency response vessel. Log that we detected signs of a potential stellar anomaly requiring immediate investigation." Chen's eyebrows rose. "A stellar anomaly, sir." "Well, we are a scientific monitoring station, aren't we?" A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "And if we happen to encounter something else while investigating this anomaly, we'll deal with that according to first contact protocols." "Yes, sir." Chen's fingers were already moving, bringing the station's small but well-equipped rescue ship online. "Should I alert the rest of the crew?" "Wake up Dr. Harrison and get her translation matrices running. And get Rodriguez from engineering. Something tells me we're going to need his creative touch with the engines." Santos moved toward the ship preparation area, his voice carrying back to Chen. "Whatever we find out there, humanity's about to step onto a much bigger stage. Let's make sure we put our best foot forward." As the rescue ship systems came online and crew members rushed to their stations, Chen couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. The signal continued its degrading pulse, like a fading heartbeat in the vast darkness of space. Whatever they found at those coordinates would change everything. She just hoped they'd get there in time. The next few hours were a blur of activity as the small crew of 5 prepared for departure. Dr. Maya Harrison, the station's xenolinguist, worked feverishly to adapt their translation systems for entirely new language patterns. Rodriguez, their miracle working engineer, pushed the rescue ship's engines well beyond their rated capabilities, muttering in Spanish about the laws of physics being more like guidelines anyway. As they prepared to depart, Santos gathered them in the ship's small briefing room. "I won't lie to you. We're about to fly beyond any human frontier, chasing a signal we barely understand. Command would call this reckless. They'd be right. But out here on the edge, we don't just listen to the darkness. We answer when someone calls for help, no matter who they are." Chen looked around at her crewmates. Harrison's excited grin, Rodriguez's determined nod, and Medical Officer Dr. Park's steady calm. This wasn't just a rescue mission or a first contact scenario. This was humanity's first chance to prove itself to the wider galaxy. As the rescue ship detached from stellar horizon, Chen kept her focus on the mysterious signal, now their only guide into the unknown. The coordinates led them toward a region of space that appeared empty on their charts, but Chen knew better. Something was out there, something that needed help badly enough to reach across the stars with technology humans had only dreamed of. They were about to show the galaxy what humanity does best, rushing in to help first and asking questions later. Whether that would prove to be their greatest strength or their fatal flaw remained to be seen. The rescue ship Samaritan dropped out of FTL at the edge of an unremarkable star system, its sensors immediately coming alive with activity. Commander Santos leaned forward in his chair as the tactical display filled with dozens of signatures, most of them moving erratically. "Multiple vessels detected," Chen reported, her hands flying over the sensor controls. "I'm reading severe structural damage on several of them. Energy signatures don't match anything in our database." Through the main viewport, they could see them. Sleek vessels with organic curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal, now marred by weapon impacts and burning atmosphere. They were being pursued by darker ships, angular and predatory, that moved with ruthless efficiency. "Those ships in the lead," Harrison said, her translation matrix working overtime. "They're broadcasting the same signal we detected. But it's not just a distress call anymore. It's a warning to others to stay away." Santos' jaw tightened. They're trying to protect potential rescuers from sharing their fate. "Lieutenant Chen, open a channel." Before Chen could comply, the ship's sensors screamed in alarm. A massive energy surge erupted from one of the pursuing vessels, cutting through one of the fleeing ships like it was paper. The destruction was absolute, leaving nothing but atomized debris. "My God," Dr. Park whispered. There were thousands of life signs on that ship. "Channel open, sir," Chen reported, her voice steady despite what they'd just witnessed. "This is Commander David Santos of the Earth vessel Samaritan. We received your distress signal and are here to render assistance. Please respond." For several long moments, only static answered them. Then, a voice came through, melodic but strained with exhaustion and fear. "Earth vessel, you must leave immediately. The Nexus will show you no mercy. They believe our existence is an abomination that must be purged." "We're not leaving," Santos replied firmly. "We can provide emergency transport for your wounded. What's your status?" A different voice cut through the channel, harsh and mechanical. "Unidentified vessel, this is the Nexus Purification Fleet. These creatures are a violation of natural law. Their ability to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously makes them an affront to universal order. Leave now or share their fate." Rodriguez spoke up from engineering. "Multiple states. Commander, I'm detecting some weird readings from the refugee ships. It's like they're not fully here, or they're here and somewhere else at the same time." Harrison's eyes lit up with understanding. Quantum beings. They exist across multiple realities simultaneously. That's why their signal was so complex. It was coming from multiple versions of themselves at once. And that makes them deserve death. Santos' voice carried steel. "Chen, get me their leader again." The melodic voice returned, weaker now. "Please, we are scholars, scientists. We only wish to understand the nature of reality. When we achieved quantum consciousness, the Nexus declared us heretics against the natural order. We've been running ever since. Santos stood, his decision made. You're under our protection now. All refugee ships, form up behind us. Rodriguez, divert all power to shields. Sir, Chen interrupted, the Nexus fleet outguns us by several orders of magnitude. We can't possibly. We can, and we will. Santos cut her off. Humanity wrote our own rules about what was natural. We crawled out of our gravity well when physics said we shouldn't, split the atom when nature said it was impossible, and reached for the stars when our bodies said we belonged on the ground. If these beings found another path to evolution, who are we to judge? The Nexus ships were moving to surround them now, weapons charging. Their leader's voice came through again, incredulous. You would stand against the natural order for beings you don't even understand. Understanding isn't a prerequisite for compassion, Santos replied. But since you mention it, Dr. Harrison, how's that translation matrix coming? Harrison looked up from her station, grinning. Actually, sir, I've been studying their quantum communications. With Rodriguez's help, I think we might have found a way to level the playing field. Explain. The refugees exist in multiple states at once, right? Their ships must use some kind of quantum field to maintain that. If we can tap into it. She glanced at Rodriguez. The engineer nodded enthusiastically. We could temporarily exist in multiple states ourselves. Not completely. We don't have the biology for it, but maybe enough to confuse their targeting systems. Do it, Santos ordered. Chen, defensive pattern Delta. Let's show these Nexus what happens when they threaten people under human protection. As Harrison and Rodriguez worked to modify their shields, the refugee ships moved into formation behind the Samaritan. The Nexus fleet hesitated, clearly confused by this small vessel's defiance. Commander, the refugee leader spoke again, their voice stronger now. You risk everything for strangers. Why? Santos watched as the first modifications came online, the shield harmonics beginning to shift in ways that shouldn't be possible. Because that's what humans do. We see someone in need, we help. The universe can be cold and cruel. We don't have to be. The Nexus ships opened fire, their weapons cutting through space toward the Samaritan and its charges. But where their beams should have struck true, they passed through empty space, or perhaps through one of many possible Samaritans existing simultaneously. It's working, Rodriguez shouted from engineering. We're partially phased across multiple quantum states, not as completely as our new friends, but enough to confuse their weapons. Santos allowed himself a small smile. Now let's see if we can't teach the Nexus a lesson about tolerance. Chen, ready our modified quantum torpedoes. Time to show them what happens when humanity decides to rewrite the rules of reality. The space around the Samaritan erupted in a dazzling display of quantum distortions as the Nexus fleet's weapons passed harmlessly through multiple probability states. On the bridge, Rodriguez's jury-rigged quantum field generator whined in protest, pushing their conventional technology far beyond its designed limits. Field stability at 60% and falling, Rodriguez reported, his hands dancing across multiple control interfaces. We can't maintain this state for long, Commander. Santos nodded grimly. We don't need long. Dr. Harrison, what have you learned about their quantum communications? Harrison barely looked up from her station, where streams of multidimensional data flowed across her screens. The refugees, they're calling themselves the Quantum Collective. They don't just exist in multiple states. They can choose which reality to manifest in. That's how they've survived this long. Can we use that? Santos asked, watching as another barrage from the Nexus fleet rippled through space, where the Samaritan might or might not have been. Maybe, Harrison replied, excitement creeping into her voice. The Nexus ships are using conventional weapons, but they're targeting through quantum space to hit their victims in all possible states at once. That's why the collective can't simply phase away. Chen spoke up from her tactical station. Sir, the Nexus fleet is adapting. They're starting to predict our probability patterns. Next volley will hit us somewhere we actually are. Santos straightened in his chair. Harrison. Rodriguez. Give me options. Rodriguez rushed over to Harrison's station, looking at her data. His eyes widened. The collected ships, they're not just existing in quantum superposition. They're actively generating quantum entanglement fields. What if we used their fields to create a massive quantum uncertainty zone? Harrison finished, already typing furiously. Commander, we might be able to turn their own targeting method against them. Explain it simply. Santos ordered as another near-miss rocked the ship. The Nexus can hit targets in multiple states because they can predict where something might be, Harrison said. But quantum mechanics has a fundamental rule. The more precisely you measure one aspect of a particle, the less precisely you can measure another, Santos finished, remembering his academy physics. The uncertainty principle. Exactly, Rodriguez exclaimed. If we can amplify the quantum uncertainty effect using the collective's technology, we can make it impossible for the Nexus to target anything. Chen realized, her tactical training catching up with the science. Santos turned to the main view screen, where the refugee ships huddled behind their small vessel. Contact the collective. We need their help to make this work. The melodic voice of their leader responded immediately. We are listening, Commander. Your species continues to surprise us with its adaptability. Can you synchronize your quantum fields with our ship? Santos asked. Create a massive zone of uncertainty. There was a pause. What you suggest? It would require us to link our consciousness with your crew. The quantum merge could be dangerous for beings not evolved for multi-state existence. Risk comes with the job, Santos replied firmly. Rodriguez, Harrison, are you willing? Both officers nodded without hesitation. Harrison spoke for them both. For the chance to experience quantum consciousness. Try and stop us. The next few minutes were a blur of activity as Harrison and Rodriguez worked with the collective to modify their quantum field generator. The Nexus fleet, perhaps sensing something was happening, intensified their attack. The Samaritans' conventional shields began to fail under the assault. Field modifications complete, Rodriguez reported. But sir, this is going to take everything we've got. We'll be running on emergency power only. Better than running on no power at all, Santos replied. Chen, prepare to drop conventional shields on my mark. Harrison, neural interface ready, she reported, her voice tense with excitement. The collective is standing by. Santos took a deep breath. All hands, braced for quantum synchronization. Execute. The universe, change. There was no other way to describe it. Every crew member felt their consciousness expand, touching multiple realities simultaneously. Through their temporary link with the collective, they experienced existence as a symphony of possibilities, each choice creating new branches of reality. On the tactical display, or rather through their expanded quantum awareness, they could see the effect spreading outward. The space around their small fleet became a roiling mass of quantum uncertainty, probability waves colliding and interfering with each other. The Nexus fleet's weapons fired and missed. Not just missed, their targeting systems couldn't even define where a miss began and a hit ended. In the quantum chaos, certainty itself became impossible. It's working, Chen exclaimed, her voice seeming to come from multiple versions of herself at once. Their weapons can't lock onto anything in the uncertainty zone, including themselves, Harrison added with grim satisfaction. Their own quantum-based targeting is feeding back into their systems. Through their expanded awareness, they watched as the Nexus fleet's perfect formation began to break down. Their attempts to compensate for the uncertainty only made it worse, each adjustment creating new waves of probability that further confused their targeting. Send to all Nexus vessels, Santos ordered, his words rippling across quantum states. Your weapons are useless here. Leave now, or learn what it means to face humanity when we decide to rewrite the rules. The Nexus fleet hung in space, their certainty shattered for the first time in their existence. Their leader's voice came through, but now it seemed small and limited compared to the quantum chorus of the collective. This is impossible. You cannot simply change the nature of reality. Santos allowed himself a slight smile. Welcome to humanity's greatest secret. The word impossible is just a challenge waiting to be overcome. Now go, before we decide to see just how many more impossible things we can do today. For a moment, the Nexus fleet held their position. Then, one by one, they began to retreat, their perfect formation now ragged and uncertain. As they disappeared into FTL, Santos turned his attention to their rescued allies. "Stand by to disengage quantum sync," he ordered. "Rodriguez, Harrison, slowly now. Let's not scramble our brains on the way back to normal space." As they began the process of separating their consciousness from the quantum field, the collective's leader spoke once more. "You have shown us something remarkable today, humans. Not just your technology or your courage, but your willingness to reach across the boundaries of existence itself to help others. All in a day's work," Santos replied modestly, though he could feel the profound impact this experience would have on his crew and humanity as a whole. "Now let's see about finding you folks a safe haven. Something tells me humanity and the collective have a lot to learn from each other." The aftereffects of quantum synchronization lingered like a strange dream as the Samaritan's crew readjusted to conventional reality. Dr. Park had her hands full treating minor cases of temporal displacement sickness, while Harrison and Rodriguez worked to document their unprecedented quantum merger with the collective. "Neural scans are fascinating," Dr. Park reported during the emergency staff meeting. "Our brains have actually retained trace quantum patterns. Nothing dangerous," she added quickly, seeing Santos' concerned expression, "but we're definitely not the same people who started this mission." "That tends to happen when you exist in multiple realities at once," Rodriguez quipped, though his usual humor was subdued. He'd been quiet since the synchronization, processing the experience of touching infinity. The collective ships now traveled alongside the Samaritan, their formations flowing with an elegant harmony that seemed more natural than before. Through their newly established quantum communication channel, their leader, who had finally introduced themselves as Nexus Song, shared their story. "We were researchers once," Nexus Song explained, their thoughts carrying emotions that transcended normal communication. "We sought to understand the deepest nature of reality. When we achieved quantum consciousness, it changed us fundamentally. The Nexus, they fear change. They believe the universe has one true form that must be preserved." "Typical," Chen muttered. "Someone discovers something new and incredible, and instead of trying to understand it, they try to destroy it." "But you did neither," Nexus Song observed. "You didn't fear us or try to study us. You simply helped." Santos leaned forward in his chair. "That's the human element in all this. We've learned that the universe is too vast and wonderful to let fear guide our actions. But we've also learned that sometimes understanding can wait until after you've helped someone in need." Their conversation was interrupted by urgent signals from Chen's station. "Commander, multiple FTL signatures detected. But they're not Nexus." New ships emerged from hyperspace, sleek vessels with designs that somehow managed to exist between the organic flow of the collective and the rigid geometry of the Nexus. Their arrival brought no fear to the quantum senses the crew had retained. Instead, there was a feeling of cautious hope. "The Free Systems Alliance," Nexus Song explained, their mental voice carrying relief. "We had contacted them before, but they were too far to help when the Nexus attacked. They are like you in some ways. They believe in protecting diversity of existence." A new voice joined their communications, carrying the weight of formal authority, but tempered with genuine warmth. "Collective vessels, we came as soon as we could. There was a pause. "We're detecting an unknown ship with you, not Nexus design." Santos straightened in his chair. "This is Commander David Santos of the Earth vessel Samaritan. We responded to the collective's distress call." "Earth. The Alliance commander's voice carried surprise. "We have no record of your species in this sector." "That's because we weren't here until today," Santos replied simply. "We heard someone needed help, so we came." There was a long pause before the Alliance commander spoke again, their voice carrying a mix of amusement and disbelief. "You responded to a quantum-encoded distress signal from an unknown species, engaged a Nexus purification fleet, and successfully protected the collective, all on your first day of interstellar contact." "Well, when you put it that way, it does sound a bit unusual," Rodriguez chimed in. "But you should see what we do on day 2. The tension broke as laughter, both conventional and quantum, rippled through the communications. The Alliance commander's next words carried genuine respect. "Commander Santos, I think we have a lot to discuss. The Alliance has been looking for ways to protect quantum-variant species from Nexus aggression, but we've been limited by our own conventional nature. Your crew's ability to bridge that gap, it changes everything." Harrison spoke up, her scientist's curiosity burning bright. "The quantum synchronization technology we developed. With refinement, it could allow for safe communication and cooperation between conventional and quantum species. Maybe even help conventional species understand quantum consciousness without having to evolve into it naturally. A bridge between realities," Nexus Song mused. "Built not through centuries of evolution or technological advancement, but through a simple act of compassion. How very human." Santos smiled, feeling the weight of the moment. In less than a day, humanity had not only made first contact, but potentially changed the course of galactic civilization. Not through superior technology or military might, but through their willingness to help first and ask questions later. "The Nexus will return," the Alliance commander warned. "They cannot accept the existence of quantum-variant species, and now they'll see humanity as an even greater threat to their ordered universe." "Let them come," Santos replied, his voice carrying the quiet confidence that had guided humanity from their first steps on Earth to their current leap into a quantum universe. "They believe in a universe of rigid rules and single states of being. We believe in infinite possibilities, and we've gotten pretty good at making the impossible happen." Dr. Park, who had been quietly observing, suddenly laughed. "You know what this reminds me of? Earth's old quantum physics debates. God doesn't play dice with the universe." "Maybe not," Chen replied with a grin, "but humans sure like to reshuffle the deck." As the Alliance and collective ships formed up around the Samaritan, preparing to escort them to safety, Santos reflected on the incredible series of events that had brought them here. They had arrived as unknown saviors and would leave as part of something far greater. A coalition of species united not by their nature, but by their belief in protecting the rich diversity of existence itself. The universe, it seemed, had many more impossible things to show them. And humanity, as always, was ready to face them with open minds, brave hearts, and their unique talent for turning scientific impossibilities into everyday realities. 3 months after the Samaritan's first contact, the observation deck of Stellar Horizon Station had become surprisingly crowded. Representatives from a dozen species, both conventional and quantum variant, gathered to witness the signing of what media outlets were already calling the Horizon Accords. Lieutenant Chen, recently promoted to first officer, stood beside Commander Santos as they watched the proceedings. The station's humble communications array now bristled with quantum-enhanced sensors, a gift from the collective that had transformed the lonely outpost into one of the most sophisticated listening posts in known space. Hard to believe it all started with one distress call, Chen mused, watching as a collective representative shifted through multiple quantum states while discussing technical specifications with Rodriguez. The engineer had earned quite a reputation for his ability to merge conventional and quantum technologies in ways neither side had considered possible. "Sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest choices," Santos replied, adjusting the collar of his dress uniform. The Alliance had insisted on formal ceremony for this occasion, though he suspected they'd adapted their protocols considerably to accommodate Earth's less rigid approach to diplomacy. Dr. Harrison hurried over, her neural interface now upgraded with quantum processing capabilities. "Commander, you're not going to believe this. The collective just shared their historical archives with us. They found evidence of other quantum-variant species that went into hiding from the Nexus centuries ago. With our new detection methods, we might be able to find them." "More lost souls to bring home," Santos nodded. "Add it to the list." That list had grown considerably since their first encounter. The Alliance's diplomatic corps had been working overtime to handle a flood of species, both conventional and quantum variant, seeking contact with humanity. Their reputation for innovative problem-solving and unconventional approaches had spread faster than light through the galactic community. The Nexus, true to the Alliance's warning, had not taken humanity's interference lightly. Their attempts to isolate Earth diplomatically had backfired spectacularly when humans demonstrated their quantum synchronization technology to other conventional species. The ability to safely experience quantum consciousness, even temporarily, had transformed the galactic conversation about the nature of existence itself. "Quantum signature detected," Chen reported suddenly, her hand moving to her sidearm. But Santos just smiled. A shimmer of probability waves coalesced into the familiar form of Nexus Song, now serving as the chief diplomatic representative of the collective. Their quantum state rippled with amusement at Chen's reaction. "Old habits?" they asked, their thought voice carrying gentle humor. "Professional caution," Chen replied with a slight smile. "Someone taught us that the universe is full of surprises." Indeed. Nexus Song's form shifted through several probability states before settling. "The signing is about to begin. Commander Santos, the collective wishes you to know that we've completed the modifications to the quantum beacon network. Once activated, it will allow instant communication between all signatory worlds, conventional and quantum variant alike." Santos nodded, understanding the implications. The network would make it impossible for the Nexus to isolate or threaten quantum variant species ever again. More than that, it would bind the signatories together in a web of shared information and culture that transcended the traditional barriers between different states of existence. "You know," Dr. Park commented, joining their group, "I've been studying the medical data from our quantum synchronization experience. The traces it left in our brains, they're not just residual patterns. They're evolving." "Evolving?" Santos turned to face her fully. "Slowly, subtly, but definitely changing. In a few generations, humans might develop natural quantum consciousness abilities of their own. Not like the collective, but something uniquely human." She smiled. "Apparently, when humanity reaches for the stars reach back." The chamber fell quiet as the Alliance chairperson stepped forward to begin the ceremony. Their voice carried across both conventional and quantum channels simultaneously, a technical achievement that would have seemed impossible just months ago. "We gather today to formalize what began with a single act of compassion," they announced. "When the Earth vessel Samaritan answered a call that was never meant for them to hear, they did more than save the collective. They showed us that the boundaries we believed fundamental to existence were really just limitations of imagination." Santos listened as the chairperson outlined the Accord's principles: mutual defense, technological exchange, and most importantly, the right of all sentient species to explore their own path of evolution without fear of persecution. The document formally recognized quantum consciousness as a natural expression of universal complexity rather than an aberration to be destroyed. As the signatures, both physical and quantum, were applied to the Accords, Chen leaned closer to Santos. "Did you ever imagine, when we picked up that first signal, that we'd end up here?" "Honestly, no," Santos admitted. "But that's humanity's gift to the galaxy, isn't it? We don't just imagine the impossible, we make it real." The ceremony concluded with a demonstration of the quantum beacon network's activation. Across thousands of light years, Countless worlds and species were suddenly connected in a web of instantaneous communication. Through their retained quantum awareness, the Samaritan's crew could feel the ripples of change spreading through reality itself. The Nexus believes that the universe has a single, proper form, Nexus Song observed, their quantum state resonating with complex emotions. They never understood that the universe's greatest strength is its ability to change, to grow, to become more than it was. Humanity reminded us of that truth. As the gathered representatives mingled and celebrated, Santos found himself drawn to Stellar Horizon's main viewport. Beyond the reinforced plexiglass, the stars seemed somehow brighter, more alive with possibility. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, and in doing so, had changed that universe forever. "You know what the best part is," Rodriguez said, joining his commander at the viewport. "This is just the beginning. Wait until they see what else we can do." Santos smiled, watching as quantum and conventional beings alike shared ideas and hopes for the future. The universe, it seemed, had been waiting for a species too stubborn to accept limitations, too compassionate to ignore a cry for help, and just crazy enough to rewrite the rules of reality itself. Humanity had answered a call never meant for them, and in doing so, had called forth a future brighter than anyone could have imagined. As the quantum beacon network pulsed with the combined thoughts and dreams of countless species, Santos knew that the legacy of that one simple choice would echo across reality itself, in all its infinite variations, forever.